Okay, so I've then been doing a little tinkering with the Dungeon Raid game, and I've changed a couple of things up. Mainly, I've changed how we track the troops. Instead of using a die, we're just going to draw a card, and that's going to be how many troops are exploring the dungeon. And if all those troops get used up, then we'll draw another card, and it'll take a little time for them to get back down into the dungeon where they were. The other thing is when we run across the structure challenge, if we clear that structure challenge, since that represents walls that have collapsed and doors that are stuck and have to be forced, that's going to do damage to the dungeon. And so after you overcome 20 structural challenges, there's going to be a collapse. And anything on the other side, if you bypassed any kind of treasure or challenges, that'll basically be lost. And also, it loses your ability to get more troops. So now whatever troops you have, you're stuck with until they explore their way out. And in order to do that, they basically have to get to the end of the deck at that point. And if they run into a challenge that they can't overcome, or if there's a second collapse, then they're trapped and they're done. And any treasure they've collected is just lost along with those troops. So we start off. It's 8 a.m. First tournament of 8 a.m. And so we have there our Explore card, our Challenge card, and then the Face Down Treasure card, which is only revealed if you overcome the challenge. The challenge is a creature because it's a heart, and you can either use a number of turns. Oh, I forgot to generate my troops there. All right, so we have 9 troops. So we can either just hit the creature head on and we'll lose 8 troops, or we can spend 8 turns sort of strategizing and overcome the creature. Or if that represents a higher level creature, then we would be maybe negotiating our way past it. But if we had explored enough and had generated enough explore here, we could just bypass it, even though we wouldn't get access to that treasure. So since it's early on, I'm going to choose the turn option. And so that's 6 turns, and then 7, and then 8 turns. So that challenge has been overcome. So this will be discarded, and we're discarding them instead of leaving them in place after we overcome them. We now have the treasure. We have the option to use the explore points to collect the treasure, or we could take 2 turns to collect the treasure. Since it's kind of a smaller treasure, I'm just going to leave it for now. Also because it'll help illustrate another slight change. So we go on to the next turn. We're going to generate another location. That's a lot more explore points. That's a bigger challenge. We're not going to add a treasure because we have an exposed treasure that's not guarded by a trap or a creature. If we had bypassed that previous creature, we'd have placed the creature here like this to show that it was a guarded treasure, and then we would have generated another treasure on top of that. And this is another turn, exploring. And since we have the queen, well, just to illustrate, I can discard the queen, and that bypasses the jack, which is good because the jack is a magic trap, and the only thing you could have is troops. You know what? On second thought, I'm not going to do that because I want to illustrate this other. The jack is a trap. It can only be cleared by losing troops. So the jack counts as a 11. So we only have 9. So that's 9 troops we've lost. So we draw another card. And we're going to lose 2 troops off of that card. So I'm just going to use this die to mark that we're down to 8 troops. And then that has been cleared. And we're still back to the original treasure. So now we generate another location. And advance our turn marker for the exploration. And this is another creature. So this creature is a 6. 6 turns will be an hour, so we'll just run it up another hour. Clear clear that creature. And we're generating a Lava Explorer, which I'm holding on to because that gives us more options when we get to bigger treasures later. So we're going to explore again. And that takes us to the 6th turn. This is another creature. This time I'll just go with the troops because it's just a 2. And that'll get us down to 6 here. And we'll use this 5 to claim our treasure. So now we've claimed our first treasure. So another turn, since we're on turn 6, this will advance the hour die. And we'll go back to the first turn. And the way I've written the steps is you generate the location, then move the turn. But you can do it either way, as long as those are the first 2 things you do. It doesn't really matter. All right, so now this is our structural challenge. So this can only be overcome with turns. It can be bypassed with the jack, but I want to use the turns to illustrate that now we're going to track this. Because if we get up to 20 bypass structure points, there will be a collapse. And at that point, anything over here is just lost. We can't get to it, and we're in much worse situation because now we have to explore all the way through to get out of the dungeon. So our treasure is a queen. Because it's red, it's magic. We'll go ahead and spend these 2 explore to claim that treasure. And so on to the next location. And now that we've picked up the treasure, we'll generate another one there. It's a new turn. The ace, we have to lose troops. But because we built up a lot of explorer, we could just bypass it and not lose those troops. But again, I'm going to hold on to it in case we do get to a collapse and we can no longer get reinforcements. So the ace, that's going to be a 14. And so the 6 runs up to 10 and 4. So that only gets us up to 10 and 4 more. And what I'm forgetting to do is I'm forgetting to advance the turn because it takes 2 turns for troops to come in. So here's 6, 10, 14. So that just overcomes the ace. So we need yet another card. So we use 3 cards. That's a full hour. And then we actually did not advance it when we got the first time. So that's going to take us to the first turn. The end of the first turn, 1 o'clock, but it does get us past that challenge. And that's a pretty good treasure. Let's see what we got. Well, no, hold off on that. So, generate a new location. Ooh, the extra joker. Okay. So, there's 2 jokers in the deck. You designate 1 to be black, 1 to be red. I say the extra joker is red. If it comes up as a loot, then the red will be magic, the black will be regular loot, treasure. And if it's a challenge, then basically you are going to get the option. If it's black, it'll be the mundane trap, which you can choose turns or troops. And if it's red, it'll be the creature. So this is a big creature. We could bypass it, so I'm going to illustrate that by bypassing it. And what that does is, now that is the sort of the guardian of that treasure. So if you want to claim that treasure later, you'll have to come back, you have to get through that joker. So we generate a new location, and because that treasure is guarded, you will generate another treasure. And so on. So that's the basics. I'm going to flip through so that we can illustrate. Well, let me just turn it around so I can find my... Alright, so let's do this. Alright. Alright, so that's a king, that's a creature, will burn to bypass that. And so now we'll go to the next location. And I'm rigging the deck a little to show so I can show the collapse. So I can show you this collapse mechanic. Alright, so we got the Joker, we got the Ace. We could bypass it. I don't want to do that because I want to show you the collapse mechanic. So this Ace is going to take us up to 17. So we're very close to collapse here. Since it only uses turns, that'll be 2 more hours. And then 2 more turns on top of that. And then we go to another location. That. And since this is not what's here, that should have been revealed. So that's 2. So we won't put another one there. And we advance. So now we're up to 4 o'clock. So now it's getting late in the day because we're only going to 8 o'clock. We'll say that's night. More creatures come out. And then you're in trouble if you're still in the dungeon and don't have a path out. So this 5, by going through it, taking those 5 turns, now that is 14, 19, 20, 22. So that's a collapse. So now all of this is lost. It's been lost in the collapse of the dungeon, and now we don't have a clear path back to the surface. So the only way to get back is to get through the rest of the deck. And, you know, there's a pretty fair amount to go here and not much time to work with. So, 3. And now this is all the troops we're going to have. So we advanced. It's now 5 o'clock. We got 3 hours left, basically. And so now we have to be very careful because we will not get replacement troops. This is a magical trap. This would take troops only, so we're going to bypass it using this card and move on to the next. Because now we're just trying to get out of here. We got a couple of treasures and we want to get out. That's another magical trap, but fortunately we drew another card, and that's why I've kind of let this deck pile up. And that treasure is a 9. That would be a nice treasure. But again, and we can always backtrack when we get to the end if we get out of the dungeon to anything that's exposed if we have sufficient cards. So let's advance to a new location. Let's see here, that's unguarded, so we will not generate another treasure, which is kind of bad because it means you've got more cards in the deck to go through if you're only doing them 2 at a time. So maybe we should claim that treasure. So this is an 8. This can only be done with turns. That hurts, and if it gets up to 20 again, we have a second collapse, and now we're just trapped in the dungeon. So 8, 6 will be to 6 o'clock, and then 2 more turns. And let's go ahead and clear that treasure so that we can generate a card here the next time we draw. So, location. So now, if we didn't have sufficient cards here to overcome this, we would have a second collapse because the king plus the 8 would be more than 20. But with that Joker, we have more than enough right now to overcome that king. So we just bypass it. And we can't claim that treasure, which means we're not going to be able to generate another one. There and there. So this takes us to 7. We're an hour away. I don't even know if we got enough time to get through all these cards. Alright, so this will go. This will fortunately counterbalance that so we don't lose any troops. Actually, you know what? We're going to make a strategic decision here. because these two would be enough to claim the jack. So we're going to take the 6 damage since we have a jack there. And that will leave us with 5 troops. If I can find the 5 on the die. There it is. And this 11 will claim this jack, and we can burn more cards this way, as well as claiming a treasure. Because we've only got 6 turns left. And that is bad news, because I just drew a challenge. I took a chance clearing the jack to pull up more cards. And I have a challenge that I can't overcome with explore cards. It would take turns, but that would be too many turns, and it would be too many men. So, let's see. An ace is 14. This gets us down to 9. Yep, there's no way, even with a combination of all 3, you couldn't overcome that by 8 o'clock. So we get stuck in the dungeon, and all the troops die, and the treasure is left behind. And we probably weren't going to make it anyway, because we had at least 2, maybe 3 turns worth of... And that's if we didn't run into anything else that burned turns. So, but those are the basic changes. I think this is the way I'm going to leave it. If you have any comments or any ideas, please leave some comments down below. There's also a link below to my itch.io page where you can download this, the instructions and the template there. And there's also a few instructions on the back. Not really instructions, but just some clarifications and a general idea of what the game is about. So that's it.